What's happening, people? Welcome back to Hustle Smart.
What's going on, people?
Yeah, it's Shubbz here with Lex.
And we have a special guest here. Would you like to announce yourself?
Good evening. My name is Seth Oppong. I am a senior branch manager for a large independent estate agents in the UK. It's my 9 to 5. I also put together land and new home developments for clients as well. I search for land for clients at the same time as well. And I have a brand called Sok London. So as an example, the tie I'm wearing with the pocket square and the tie clip is also part of the brand of Sok London.
Yeah, nice. looking very sharp, I must say.
Very dapper.
Fresh from work.
Oh, that's great.
Seth, I met you at an event.
Last year.
Yeah, the name literally just slipped my mind.
Actually, she'll kill both of us for not remembering
Oh, no.
the name of our event.
Yikes.
It was by a friend of ours.
What's
a
it called?
mutual friend of ours. Madeline put the event
What's it
together.
called?
Mate, before we both get killed,
Yeah.
I am frantically.
Big up Maddie for the event. I remember Alex saying that I met this guy and we need him on the pod.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's
You
very good.
dropping some serious gems.
Yeah.
Boy, I like platforms like that and I like those kind of opportunities essentially.
Yeah.
I think I said this on the day, for us culturally, I don't think we discuss things like property. I don't think we discuss, commodities as such enough, especially when we're young. The school system is not something that teaches us certain things that we need to know when we grow up. And I'd say property essentially is one of the key things we need to understand.
And everyone wants to get into property as well. So it's great to have you here. So how did you get into property? Was it sort of like you got in it for a job or something for your own interest or?
For me, property is something I've always been interested in. I've always liked property, and I've got family members and family friends who have been in property essentially. So it's always something I always aspired to do.
Yeah.
But getting into property, I was in tech, and when I came out of tech, a couple of friends are in property. I mean, back in 2007, 2008 even, I tried to get into property.
Yeah.
And at the time, I had, again, friends that were in the game at the time, and they told me, look, so now's not a good time because if you remember, that was the crash at that point. So because of the crash, they told me not to come in the game, so I didn't. And after I came out of software, I asked the question. They said, you know what, now might be a better time to do so. So I did. So I went into property in November of 2013. That's when I first got into the game as a negotiator, essentially.
Nice.
So I got a question. These are for people who are between the ages of let's say 21 and 25. What advice can you give to someone that's getting in property? So kind of let me drill into that further. How much should they be looking to actually invest? What area or what location specifically should they be looking to invest? And what would you say percentage-wise is a good return on investment on average? On average.
A few good questions all at the same time. So 21 to 25, looking to invest in property, how much should they invest essentially? From my perspective, currently in the marketplace, if you're an individual that you want to get in the marketplace, my advice, South London. There's pockets of South London that are gems that a lot of people may not realise, right? So let's take Brixton as an example, right? Brixton is a location that a lot of people used to hear the name alone and be like, forget that. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to Brixton. I'm not buying in Brixton. But if you took the taboo away from Brixton, look at it now. You can't buy a 2-bedroom apartment in Brixton nowadays for less than £500,000. Even if you do that, you're very lucky. So the point I'll make is there's other pockets of South London that still had that stigma that currently are going through regeneration that will give you a very good return on your investment. So I'll give you Croydon as an example. Croydon currently, they are planning to build a Westfields in Croydon. Application has been approved. Once that's done, the property prices in that location will go up by, I would say, minimum of 40% in a sense, depending which part of the location you buy your property in. I make that analogy based on the fact that if you look at Westfields in Shepherd's Bush and if you look at Westfields in Stratford, in both locations, after Westfields came in, let's say 3 years afterwards, the property prices in those locations went up by 40%. There isn't a bank account in the world today that will give you that kind of a return or any type of investment, essentially. That kind of a return within a 3-year period.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Croydon is one. Catford would be another. Lewisham.
Yeah.
Those areas are areas that people necessarily wouldn't have gone to. If you took Peckham as an example, Peckham was a location that, again, people wouldn't go to. Nowadays, try and buy a property in Peckham. You'll see what time it is.
It's crazy. Like gentrification is a powerful thing.
It's ridiculous. So even Thornton Heath is another location where they've currently are spending £3 million on the high street alone, just regeneration. So if you take the location of Thornton Heath, equine distance to Croydon, essentially, if you bought something in Thornton Heath, leave it another 3 years, essentially. Once Westfield is built in Croydon, well, Thornton Heath is only, 10, 15 minutes down the road, if that? So it's like dropping a pebble in a pond.
Yeah.
Drop it in the middle of Croydon, watch the ripple effect take shape. So anything surrounding that location, and Thornton Heath is one of them, the prices are going to increase. If not 40%, as you go further out, you're going to get your 30, your 20, your 10, the further you move from that location.
Just off the back of what you explained, I picked up that you said that, so for example, the area of Croydon, because they're building the Westfield, house prices are going to increase by 40%. So
over a certain time period.
Over a certain time period. You said 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So if I was investing, over what or how long would you say is a suitable time to start getting a return on my investment?
Cool.
Because I know, like, for when I speak to some people, they think, 1 year or 2 years, they're just gonna
make
depends
the money.
on your
make the
strategy,
money.
firstly.
No, but I'm saying that's just like a natural assumption.
Yeah.
When I speak to people, do you know what I mean?
When I say depending on a strategy, some people are in it for capital growth, capital gain, or for cash flow. So if you're looking to rent it out, that'll be where you sort of get your return on investment. And usually, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're renting it out and you're covering your mortgage and then you have a bit more, that's when you're seeing your return on investment.
Yeah.
So that's usually it. But with the capital gain, that's long term. And someone like our age who's getting into property, I don't think you should really be too fussed about stuff like that, because if you own it and hold on to it for some time, your return on investment will be so much different to if you're looking at it in 3 years.
Yeah. So in answer to the question, and more or less in what you've said. So how long should you wait? Property is something that regardless the time length you wait, you will always see an increase, right? So the market popped, as we just said, in 2007. Leave it 10 years, well, where's the market now, essentially?
Yeah.
It's a lot higher than it was back then. So in regards to how long should you leave it? Again, it depends on the strategy or the scenario. If you're someone that you're thinking, okay, I want to buy a property, let's say, the location I've suggested. So let's use, let's say Thornton Heath as an example, right?
Yeah.
Thornton Heath currently, to buy yourself a 2-bedroom freehold house, if you're lucky, you're looking...
What's a freehold for those who don't know?
Sorry. A freehold is let's say, the property you own the land it sits on, essentially, at the same time. If it's leasehold, well, you don't own the land the property sits on, you're leasing the land that the property sits on, essentially. And after a time frame, you'd need to renew your lease and so forth. But these are done in like hundreds of years, essentially. So it just depends. But a freehold, you own the property, you own the land it sits on, you do what you like, essentially. That's it. But if you're buying a freehold property in Thornton Heath, I'd say a 2-bedroom house, you could get one maybe 350 to 400, right? Depending on condition and so forth in itself. To buy that property, you need a minimum of a 10% deposit. Yeah. And this is a second-hand property, not a brand new build, right? You need a 10% deposit. So 10% of, let's say, £400,000 is 40K for you to buy that property in itself. But it's not just that you need the 10%. Your affordability also comes into play. So your annual salary is what they will utilize to also calculate you being able to get the mortgage. So if you make, let's say, 100 grand a year, which is not the average, I'm just using it for numbers to make it simple. If you make 100 grand a year, they'll times that by a minimum of 4. So that means the bank would be willing to lend you the £400,000 essentially needed. So you then put the 10% of that into it, for you to be able to get it. So if you want to increase more than 10%, you can. There's no limit on how much you can put in. It's your choice, essentially, right? At the same time. Now, you buy that property at £400,000. My advice is if you buy it currently, your mortgage normally is a minimum of a 2-year term. So they do a 2-year, 3-year, so forth, and you fix your rate when you get the mortgage. And the mortgage, if I go back, is a loan that the bank will give you to buy the property, right? So because your mortgage is fixed for 2 years, my advice is after the 2 years, well, let's have the property valued. How much is it worth now? If the property is worth £500,000, hey, in a 2-year period, you've made £100,000 on the property. And that is not unheard of, by the way. There are properties you can buy, and in some cases, if over a 6-month period, or over a 3-month period, depending on what you do to it, depending on its condition from when you bought it, you can increase the value fairly quickly in some cases. So if you're going to stick to that plan, then keep it for 2 years, value it £500,000. If at that point you want to sell it, hey, sell it, £500,000. You pay the bank back what you borrowed if you want. Utilize that amount of money to then buy something else at the same time.
Yeah.
So just so we are a bit more realistic because of our listeners, like not many of us are like
Making
hardly any of us
£100,000.
are on 100k.
I get it.
A lot of people are looking to invest up north and stuff like that. So obviously I've been in property as well, and when speaking to like investors and people who have been in the game as well, they usually say it's a bit, you hear mixed messages.
Yeah.
For example, you hear that, your stamp duty is free first time you buy a property, you get a 5% mortgage. You should really leverage that and buy in London. Or some people are like, well, if you really want cash flow, you should go up north because you're able to get a lot from the rent and stuff like that. It's much cheaper.
Yeah.
So for someone who is our age, that we said 21 to 25, or even those who are a bit older but still early in their careers and stuff like that, what would you say? And of course, there's no perfect answer, but what is your own personal
view for them to get into property in itself? My advice would be, because as you say, on average, the salary doesn't give you the multiples to buy a property, right? So why not look at what some of us do now? Because currently, I bet you some individuals are renting rooms, some individuals are renting an apartment, as an example. And if you're paying, let's say, a minimum a month of, if you rent an apartment in London, I say most people pay a minimum of, let's say, not even an apartment, let's say a room is like £500 a month, right? So if you're in a room and you're paying £500 a month, well, you and a friend together, that's £1,000 a month. I'd tell you your mortgage, depending on how much deposit you guys put together and what the affordability works out to be, your mortgage probably will be that £1,000. In some cases, might be less, depending on the rate you get on your mortgage. So some people rent a lot, but don't actually look at, well, me and a friend are renting an apartment. Why don't me and the same friend buy the property together? Because at the end of the day, that friend can't run off with that property. It's in both your names. So when the time comes to sell it, they need your signature on that documentation for it to be sold. So it's a case that you'll be able to help each other get on the property ladder.
I agree.
And see that return come back. And I can guarantee over a certain time frame, you'd be able to get enough equity in the property, depending on location and so forth, that you'll be able to release your equity, so the money you make on what you pay for it, and actually probably both buy one each. There are certain cultures that's exactly what they do.
You're right.
You will find whole families, like 2-3 families in one house, living together whilst they are saving money. Essentially, because if you imagine a whole family living in one house and they're paying the rent on that house, the amount of money they're saving between them, and then within a year, they buy one house. Following year, buy another. The following year, buy another. Then everybody now owns their own house.
Yeah, that's really good game, because not a lot of people talk about shared ownership as a strategy, and maybe it's because of the people I'm talking to.
Well, they do, but they only think about shared ownership with the whole Help to Buy scheme. And
There
stuff.
you go.
And a lot of people don't really like you said, you don't think of how like 2 is better than 1, how you can do much more with 1. So that's really interesting, because like when you're getting shared ownership, you don't really need to worry much about the region, whether it's up north or in London and stuff like that. That's really interesting. But also, like I've said, you don't always have to buy a property to get into property, if you get what I mean.
You don't.
And like, are there any ways that you would recommend for people? Because like me, for example, I got into property by doing rent to rent. And that was when I was, say, 20, 21. And obviously, but like it's something I'm probably going to focus more on about in the future. But like, just to elaborate, it's like rent to rent is when you rent a property, but you're also renting it out to someone else. So sometimes you're allowed to do that if the landlord permits. And with that, for example, I think like on my normal salary, I was paying the landlord about £1,000 a month, and it was in Hackney, and a room in Hackney is about £750, and it was 4 bedroom. So stuff like that was like a way you can get a return. Do you get what I mean? Like you don't always need to get a mortgage, but
no. So a lot of people do that. The term they refer to it as is known as a company let, essentially. So you rent the property, as you say. If you're paying £1,000, you then rent each room. So in some cases, it's not just the bedrooms, right? So if it's a 3-bedroom property or 4-bedroom property, they'll rent out the rooms and then rent out the front room, the dining room at the same time, and everyone just says the kitchen, essentially. And as you say, if you're collecting individually per room, like you could would guarantee that landlord their rent over a certain time period. But some people you need to obviously maintain the property.
Yeah.
And imagine that the amount of damage that might be caused. And obviously you'd have to look at covering those costs. But it's a very good way to also make money out of property. Look, with property as an example, there is so many different avenues in property, right? Whether, as you say, it's you're buying it, you're renting it to then subsequently rent it out to somebody else, whether it's just maintenance of a property.
Yeah.
Like I know individuals who've set up cleaning companies, and what they will do is when a tenant moves out, they come in, they clean the property. Or even as part of the process, when somebody rents out their property, they get a contract with that person on a weekly basis. They go into that apartment and they clean it for the landlord. Because that way, again, it keeps it in a good condition. So there are so many avenues. And I'm one that haven't done this for such a long time. I always say, there's a lot in my head, right? So to get it out of me, you got to poke me and possibly ask me the right questions in a sense. So just poke. And you get all the responses. But it's just, I could talk for England and I could talk about a manner of different things. So I think that the main thing is just trying to, if I could break down maybe, I think, easy avenues for people to get into the game.
I
feel like that would be much more beneficial.
Let's get into that because like, there's certain things that I want to know about property because I've kind of just got the ball rolling in terms of investing. So like I'm investing in Wolves and Hull.
Okay.
And
what made you choose those locations?
One is up north, so it's cheaper. But the main reason, I've done a bit of research and they're doing a lot of regeneration in the area.
Good.
Also, brand new builds haven't even been lived in before.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? And close to the uni. And
that's what, again, people need to look at. When you're buying something, again, if you're looking to rent it out or you want to be able to get a return on the investment in any way, shape or form, right?
Yeah.
So if it's in a good location, regardless how much it is now, regeneration is happening, the price is going to go up, right? Especially around the location, transport links, shops and so forth, the price will go up over time. But if it's to rent it out and you look at the rental, so you need to understand what they call it a yield. And to understand your yield, you need to know how much the property costs versus what you're going to make on a monthly basis over a 12-month period. That will give you what your yield is. A good percentage on a yield. In London, you'll probably get maybe 6 or 7%. Out of London, you're looking for a minimum, I'd say, of about 10%, essentially, which would give you a very good return on your investment. And that's what you'd be getting back from what you're renting the property out for. So again, that's very good. And as you say about coming out of London, there are certain university campuses that would give you a very good return on your investment and where you don't have to have such a large initial capital outlay to buy the property. So it's a very good avenue to be doing and something to be looking at. Some people worry about buying property. Look, don't just go for it. You just need to understand the process, I would say, and just do some research.
But like, what would you say? So let's say for a 21-year-old come out of uni, he wants to invest in London. How much is it? Is it as strict as 10%, or should he kind of is there a way you can perhaps give 5%?
Perfect.
So
something? That age, it's again all going to be dependent on the amount of deposit you have. I know the Bank of Mum and Dad is very much alive in my industry where they're helping the younger ones in regards to deposits.
Let's say there's no Bank of Mum and Dad. He's got about 10-15 grand.
Okay.
What can he do there?
No Bank of Mum and Dad, you've got 10 or 15,000 pounds as a deposit. You won't be able to do anything major in London, full stop. Let's just be real. £10,000 would be what, 10% or even 5% of let's call it 200, right? But the point being, it's not buying you nothing in London.
But outside London, that
will definitely get you something. So if you're going to go outside of London with that, then fine. You'll be able to get yourself on a ladder very easily. But to be real, in London, £100,000 as a price, no. Cheapest you'll find probably a studio, maybe for about 160.
I've seen some terrible studios, so 100 grand is crazy.
Sorry, not even to be a Debbie Downer, but what 21-year-old has 10k?
You'll be surprised.
Of course,
people will be trapping like as in those
I don't think it's impossible. But my thing is, I honestly used to do you get me? Where I'm from, that's possible. But it's not for a lot of people.
No, it's not.
And I feel like this is the thing. A lot of people, just to be realistic and to really help people and make sure we're giving them that value.
It was for argument's sake.
Not even for argument's sake, but just to make sure those if you're not 21 and don't have 10k and you're listening to this, you're gonna be like, okay, so how can I get into it? I'm 25 and I still don't have 10k.
So unfortunately, there are certain boundaries that will always be in place and you can't change that, right? You're 21, you don't have 10 grand. You can't buy a property. There's nothing you can do, right? If you've got maybe £5,000, okay, cool. Then the avenue might be look at, as you said, renting a property and subsequently renting that out and letting the rooms, because that will allow you to get more money in and then save up to be able to buy something.
Yeah.
So you say renting a property. So for example, would I go to the estate agent and say, yeah, I want to rent this property? Or would I have to do it through, or would I have to do it through a business?
Help you. I went
as he says with an estate agent in the room.
But you can disagree, but through my experience, like I was like, listen, I hate cold calling, but I was cold calling. I was calling up estate agents, or I'll go on Gumtree. Like, just to be honest, so I'll go on Gumtree now. Yeah. I'll look out for a property and say East Ham, and I'll just start calling them, asking if they're renting it out to companies and whether they'll be interested in meeting or viewing and stuff like that. And many of them will say no. So many will say no. Majority will say no. Yeah. Those who say yes, you go to the viewing, go in my little suit, try flex a little, and just sort of try impress them.
If you don't try.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen.
Exactly. Literally. And really and truly, like, many of them might be like, yeah, many will be like, no, depending on what type of vibe they get from me. But the one time where I managed to get one was through, I saw so basically this lady, she was a landlady and she owned her own property and the one next door. So obviously, like, I just went to go help her out and be like, you know what, like, I'm renting out individual rooms, I'm able to help you find tenants. How do you feel about me paying you this amount of rent?
But was you an individual or business?
Well, you have to be a business in property. Cool. So I had the name registered and everything like that. Cool. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. Built a personal relationship with her, showed her the value I'd be giving her. And through that, she was able to be like, okay, yeah, fair enough. Because a lot of landlords, there's a lot of stress. And that's the thing. We also need to talk about the challenges in having a property, the void periods, the times where your boiler breaks and you have to pay 5K for it. There's so much. Yeah. And that's why when...
There is.
Yeah, when 21-year-olds are striving to have a property, you also have to make sure you have the money and the financial income to back you up as well.
At the age of 21, if you want to buy a property, it's doable. Yeah. But there are certain parameters that you need to have in place. So the basics are, whatever location you're looking to buy your property in, you want a minimum 10% deposit. If it's your first property, you can get away with 5% deposit, but it has to be a new build property and it has to have Help to Buy scheme on it.
That can't be no higher than 450,000. Right?
It's higher than that. It's if I remember rightly, it's 500,000 off the top of my head. But I'm even trying to think that the boundary might be 6. But don't quote me on that. I've got too many numbers in my head. But the limit is quite high. But you can put 5% down on that Help to Buy. In some cases, actually, the percentage might change. It just depends on the numbers. Once you sit down with a broker, they'll work it out for you, right? And you can put more than the 5% if you want to, but the minimum would be 5%. But let's remember, it has to be a new build and it has to have Help to Buy scheme on it for you to be able to do that, right? If you don't have that 5%, and if your multiples as a 21-year-old and your multiples is your annual income, right? So if you don't make enough for you to be able to reach the figure that you need for the purchase price of the property, then it's not going to happen. So I get 21 is fairly young. So in some cases, yes, it might be doable. In other cases, it might not be doable. I know 21-year-olds that have come out of university straight into, let's say, tech jobs as an example, that are making over that 30 grand a year. Literally straight out the door into a sales tech job to make 30 grand a year before they've sold anything. I know others that have come out because of what they got, 50 grand. So it's not unheard of at that age. It just depends on the scenario and it's not for everybody. But I'll bring it back to the point that you made about trapping. Listen, look, we've all been out here. We all grew up in London and London's a place that, listen, you got to do what you got to do. I'm sat here in a suit, but believe me, come to South London, mention my name. They'll tell you what time it is, yeah? But the point I'm making in saying that is, if you're out here at that age, I know some of my young brothers are making some serious money. You've got to be looking at avenues in how you're going to, 10 years' time, be able to be reaping the rewards from what you're doing now. And if you're not thinking about an avenue as to how you're going to clean that money, how are you going to spend it? Look at where the world is going. We're going very digital with the money. Yeah, from cryptocurrency and so forth and everything. We're going, look at the banks. How many people do you see in a bank nowadays? We're going very digital. So we need to be looking at how you're going to clean that money. The point I'm going to make though is you need to also be looking at avenues in how you can be self-employed, how you can be registering money coming in through some form of business into your bank account. Think what I'm saying here. I know we're on the roads, but you've got to look at avenues. So barbershop, hey, you don't need to know how to cut the hair. Employ somebody to cut the hair. But it's an avenue. You with me? Look at avenues of how you can fund that money into a bank account, because you can't legally walk into a bank, take a mortgage and say, yeah, there's 100 grand cash. Give me that. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not.
So you got to find an avenue to get that 100 grand cash into a bank account.
Yeah. So yeah, my thing is, yeah, I just want your take on this, because like I said, I was in property from like young.
Yeah.
But like, in my opinion, I feel like wealth creation is wealth creation. It doesn't always have to be property.
No,
so
it
right
doesn't.
now, my wealth creation vehicle that I'm focusing on is my business. Do you feel like a lot of people just want a property? Like, I feel like a lot of people just want properties for the sake of saying, I bought my first property before 25. Do you feel like people, if they focus on wealth creation as a whole and finding a vehicle that works for them, for example, a business where they're able to offer a service where they're good at naturally, or sell a product that might be a problem solver for people, do you feel like people should focus on that vehicle first, then get into property? Because that's the strategy I'm taking now.
Good question. So for me, it depends, right?
Yeah.
So if you've got an idea, if you've got a business, or if you've got something that you already do currently, then yeah, by all means, focus on it, right?
Yeah.
There is a term known as corporate sharecropping. Google it, I would say. Yeah. And again, I'm not sure how politically correct I'm able to be or how loose-lipped I should be in making my comments.
Say what you want, man.
Speak the truth.
Speak the truth.
All right. So we as a people, and if you know what I mean by that, you know what I mean by that, right? We as a people used to be very much business owners and have always been business owners, entrepreneurial, from the motherland to being in America, from when we first came out of slavery. Again, Black Wall Street, if you know the history, look it up. Owned our own bus companies, banks, some of those most profitable businesses in the world. Check it out. The point I'm making is, if you look at it over the years, and if you look at even the school system, it's training us to become employees. Yeah, that term corporate sharecropping, check it out. It will give you a better breakdown of what I'm saying. But the point I make is, it's training us to be employees. It's not training us to be business owners.
Yeah.
So what I love about the young generation is social media has come along and they've taken to it in a different fashion, right? So let's use my young brother Stormzy as an example, right? Came out the gate doing what? Utilizing social media to put out his music. Back in the day, that platform wasn't there. Now, if you look at the recent beef, why do you think Wiley's kicking off at my man? Because Wiley's been in this game for a very long time, and he didn't have the platform or the accessibility that that Stormzy has today.
Yeah.
So with what he's achieved, being the Godfather, versus what this young buck's come along and doing right now, he's thinking, hold on, what an upstart. But as Stormzy pays his dues to him and tells him, and if you listen to it, Wiley Flow is actually a tribute to him because of what he's done previously. But Wiley's still bitter at the fact that Stormzy has made how much? Going platinum. Come on, sitting there with Charlemagne right now.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? So the fact what I'm saying is, utilize what's at your hand.
Yeah.
And if you're good at something, whether it be cutting hair, whether it be for the ladies, painting someone's nails or the eyelashes, listen, focus on it, get on Instagram, utilize it, have a revenue stream. So there's the point is, to become a millionaire, let's say, you need what's known as 7 different revenue streams, right? So if you've got 7 different revenue streams, then lo and behold, you're going to become a millionaire.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you 9 to 5, I'm an estate agent. I've got SLK London as a second. Do you see what I mean? So if you can find different things that you can do, find 7 of them that make you money, you're laughing.
But also, me personally, I feel like it's important to put a time frame on it, because me, myself, I had like 3 businesses, but I know for a fact I won't get to a good stage unless, like, just doing it in stages, if you get what I mean.
Yeah,
like,
but don't jump in head first.
Yeah.
Right? Everything you do, you need to have a plan in place, right?
Exactly.
So things like wanting to have your own business, well, you need to do some research to understand what you need, timeframes in place. Like if it's stock, where your stock's coming from, you know, all of these different things you need to look at, right? And you can't just throw it in the air and leave it.
Yeah.
You've got a set time frame. So over the next 6 months, I need to be here. Over the next 12 months, I need to be here. Over the next 2 years, I need to be here. mood boards. Come on, do a mood board every year.
Yeah, I
do a
did
mood
my
board every
first
6
one
months.
this year, yeah.
Focus on what you want. And again, they say what you say will come to pass, right? I'm from Ghana, and there's a lot of sayings that us Africans have essentially, and that's one of them. So if what you say will come to pass, well, they say speak it into existence at the same time. So my sitting here saying 7 different revenue streams, well, that should tell you that I'm planning to be a millionaire at some point, right? I'm surrounded by individuals that I would tell you are already at that level. And for me, that is just motivation for me to get myself to that level. I'm telling you.
Lastly, just scratching the surface, because we can't, like, all these strategies, you got to break it down. Like you said, you can talk
in
forever.
property. There's
You might have a whole property series.
Yeah, like
Can't lie.
a series or something.
Yeah.
But deal sourcing, could you talk a bit more about that as well? Because that's another strategy in which people can make a lot of money
Yes, they can.
just by utilizing their time rather than actually having money
to do
them.
it. Yeah. So deal sourcing, there are a lot of people that make an awful lot of money out of sourcing deals. Literally, approach estate agents. People look for dilapidated properties that are currently lower than the market value, essentially. So they'll buy them, or they don't buy them. They find them. What they then do is find somebody else to subsequently buy that property, essentially, right? And as part of that deal, well, the package is, well, you pay me, let's say 5% or whatever the percentage might be that you work out with that person.
Do you need to be, let's say, approved to kind of do that? Is that like an exam? You can just do that.
No, you can wake up tomorrow morning, go to an estate agent, find that property, find whoever
an
investor that wants to buy it, and do your deal. And
so, what advice can you give to people that, let's say, want to do that, but I'm not sure how to necessarily
navigate,
find their clients?
The property element is fairly easy. You just want good location, a property that is at a good price. And what I mean by is look at the price of that property. So if you want to understand what the average price of a certain location is, you can look on certain websites that will tell you, right? So the Office of National Statistics releases figures on a monthly basis as to what property prices actually sell for. So ONSHPI is known as. So the Office of National Statistics House Price Index. Google it, it will come up. Click into it, it will show you, and you can get it by location. So for Croydon and every part of the UK, it will give you that information for you to check. So you can then look at the average versus what the price is, and then so forth to understand the price level. To find an investors, you'd be surprised. Go on LinkedIn.
Even friends and family networking events.
Literally.
Like last year,
there's so many. There's so many avenues, because there are property events that will happen that you will find investors at, as an example. Go to new build property launches or property expos as an example. Go directly to developers in some cases. You'll be able to meet them there. You're on their turf. Name, number, say, look, if I find a piece of land or if I find a house that you can convert into flats or whatever, they might be interested in that. So approaching that way. But LinkedIn, generally, look at investors on LinkedIn in property. What locations, who is releasing what, essentially. So there's different ways to find your investors as such. And talk to estate agents, because an estate agent has a Rolodex of developers or investors that they deal with. Themselves to get new build properties on the market. So have that conversation. They'll know the people in the marketplace buying locally as well. Talk to them.
No, exactly. That's great. And the thing is, like we said, there's so many avenues and strategies. But the thing is, time. You have to be willing to put the time in. Of course. A lot of people don't really want to put the time in these strategies, and that's why.
When you say time, is that time to wait for your return?
It's time consuming to find a deal. Number one,
yes.
It's time consuming to get your investor to agree and say, okay, I'm going to send this money over. It's time consuming to be out there networking all the time. And it's like, that's just how it is. If you really want it, you have to put the time in. Time in to also get the return on investment as well, like you said. But if you really want it, you can do it.
But that's the same with everything. It's
exactly.
You put in your time and effort in to get that return, no matter what.
If you want your seed to grow, you got to water it. You got to tend to it.
Exactly. And there's so much free content out there as well. Like me, for example, finding out about how to get my first rent to rent. That was from YouTube videos. That was from podcasts as well. And there's this information, but maybe people want it handed to them, but you also have to go out your way to look out for it and Google it as well, if you get what I mean. But like, we're only scratching the surface.
We are. There's so many avenues. Look, property is such a big avenue to make money. Whether you're buying, renting, renting to rent, doing deals, maintaining them in some way. Like, the avenues are ridiculous, right? People be surprised. An electrician, a plumber.
People don't get it. Laborers are making money. Cash, bro.
And it's cash as well. So imagine, as we're talking about cash flow. Listen, you want to make money? Bro. If someone had told me when I came out of high school, actually, you know what? Forget college, forget university, go and learn to be an electrician, a plumber, or a bricklayer.
My uncle said that's what he would have told me.
Listen, I would have looked at them like you're crazy. But actually, knowing what I know now, I should have came out of high school and went straight away to become an electrician, a plumber. Like, I'm telling you now, you got to. It's an avenue.
Trust me, bro. You see all them dons in year 11 that were doing vacation.
That stuff makes my back hurt.
Listen, go and literally.
It might not be even, you might be an office
even
boy.
how to lay tiles. As
Then
an example.
I can say I know the basics. Innit,
So that
back.
can be an avenue for you to make
Yeah,
a business.
No,
Yeah,
like you said,
it's
no,
true.
that's it, man. But yeah, man, thanks a lot for the avenues. We're
problem.
just scratching the surface,
Yeah,
man. We
literally.
definitely need you.
Gonna have to
back
do
on.
another session.
So
Yeah.
100%. Let me know. You can do a Q&A if you want.
For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, that would be
where
good.
can
we find you? Where can our audience find you?
Your audience can find me in so many places. So as I said, SOK London for the brand. Instagram, literally just SOK London or SOK LDN. You'll find me there. For property, Mr. SOK Property. I actually need to update that a bit more. I don't think I utilize my time to update that as much. And on the personal is Seth Opp, so SETHOPP on Instagram. You'll find me there. 9 to 5. As I said, I work for a reputable estate agent. No names. Find me on LinkedIn.
It's reputable. I can definitely vouch for that.
I can second that. So.
And man, there you have it. A few nuggets for property.
For those who
don't know, for those who want to start out, and if you do want to start and get into property, use some of the nuggets that was shared in here. You know what I'm saying?
And go and do your own further research as well. And like we said, maybe we'll do a Q&A soon. So hit us up with some questions on the gram.
Yeah.
What you think you would like us to discuss next time.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, Alex, the house notes.
So make sure you follow, like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, Twitter. We have a LinkedIn. Follow us on LinkedIn. Again, if you want to come on the pod, we're friendly guys. So drop us a message, send us an email. And yeah, man.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
And remember to focus on things that move the needle.
Oh, wait, word for the week.
Word for the week. Seth, what's the word for the week?
What's the word for the week?
Word for the week. Corporate sharecropping.
Okay. Corporate sharecropping.
My people need to understand that term.
Okay.
And final note from me, look, as a race, we don't come together enough. We need to be more unified. We are the entrepreneurs of everything. We created everything. So look, do some research. But the point I'm making is us as people, I don't think we come together enough. Look at the Chinese, look at the Indians, see how they live together.
And the Jewish.
They own the world
Brilliant
as well,
example, man.
They own the
Crazy.
world. Check out the banks and who owns the banks. He just said it. So we need to come together more. We need to come together.
Yeah, man. I just want to drop a little nugget for everyone. I've watched this myself. The Black Godfather on Netflix. Watch it. Clarence Avon. The guy is a genius. Like a fucking genius. So, yeah, man. Yeah. And hit me back on what you think of it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Nice one, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming, Seth.
Thank you. Thanks for
Wow.